Hey, what is going on, guys? This is Hero Talk, and today I'll do a Spider-Man Homecoming Trailer 2 breakdown. So, I really want to take my time with this video because I want to touch upon several things, so this video might taking longer than I expect, so yeah. Anyway, let's just begin with my first point. And in the beginning already, we see how Peter just crosses the street, seems to be rushing because he gets between these buildings to suit up. So what I wanted to mention here is that he is apparently coming from school. Maybe he just drops out of a lesson or figures out a way to miss school in order to save the day. And we see how he wears this outfit with this shirt, with this blue shirt that he also wears in the scene where we see him in school watching the video of him fighting Ant-Man. So he was definitely in school before, also because he has his backpack on. So let's come also to the suit that he actually suits up with. We see this awesome suit, this really badass Stark Tech suit, because it is a very loose suit, but then when he pushes the button, this spider button in the middle of his chest, the suit just tightens up and looks awesome. So yeah, this is definitely just highlighting the fact that this is Stark Tech suit. So the next scene that we see in the trailer is Peter and Tony being in this car again. And we see that Peter absolutely wants to become an Avenger because he's very interested into how to become an Avenger. He asks if there are trials or something, but Tony urges him to stay a street level hero and just leave a major threat to the Avengers, as he tells him to stay a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Very iconic sentence for Spider-Man. Then the trailer continues and we see how Ned Leeds, Spider-Man's high school friend, discovers that Peter is Spider-Man. Something that they already took away in the trailer that surprises me actually, because Spider-Man's secret identity is something pretty huge, and I didn't think that they would reveal this already in the first trailer, but apparently this won't be a big deal in the movie, and Ned will probably find out pretty much soon in the movie, as they are showing this already in the trailer, and that's why it seems not to be so major for the movie. Although we then see a sequence in which Ned also shows very much his curiosity and his interest into Spider-Man and Peter, and we see very much how he wants to help him, and this might be something pretty big. And we see again the shot where Spidey and Iron Man fly together, or Iron Man flies and Spider-Man swings next to him, and here I assume again that this will be before or after Civil War. Maybe this could happen after Civil War because they are returning from there and then they swing together back home. But this may also be something that happens before or after this scene that we see on the ship, where the ship just breaks into two parts because of the Vulture, because this will be a scene that will feature Spider-Man and Iron Man together, as we saw in the trailer, and that's why it would make sense also to assume that this scene might be somewhere around this. So then we see how Peter and his class are in PE lessons, and we see how the teacher apparently shows a video of Captain America's fitness challenge. And this is pretty amazing because if you look close to it, you will notice that Captain America is wearing his Avengers suit, so this might be a bit older video. But apart from that, it is pretty awesome because again we see how the Avengers just function in the world of the MCU also for normal people. We see just how big of a personality the Avengers are for so many people. They are just representatives for so much things. and we see how just Captain America functions in this case as a PE teacher or something like that. But what I wanted also to mention here, that maybe in the PE lessons we will also see how Peter just exaggerates in some point, or just shows his physical abilities after he got his powers. Something like we also saw in The Amazing Spider-Man 1, when Peter and Flash played basketball against each other, and Peter just broke the whole basket. But maybe we'll see something similar. Then we see also a shot of how Ned tries on the suit, and we see a little hologram there, and I first just thought that this might be his computer. That didn't make any sense, so I just assumed that these are the web shooters that are projecting this hologram, and this seems like there are some buildings in the hologram, so this might be New York, or maybe this functions as a map for orientation for Spider-Man, but who knows. Again, this just shows the Stark Tech suit that he has. Then we see the Vulture for the first time, and I would like to read a quotation that he has here. "The rich and the powerful, like Stark, they don't care about us." And this is actually obviously referring to the Vulture's backstory, because we know that because of Tony Stark, the Vulture just lost his job. But what I would like to mention here is again that we will see the perspective of normal people and not this rich and powerful people. So the working class, how they perceive the Avengers, and how the Avengers affect their lives. And we also see a sequence in which the crime gang, so the Vulture, the Shockers, just build the suit or just try their equipment that they probably get from the Tinkerer. So then in the next shot we see the breaking news and Tony's damage control we see there. And this damage control is actually the thing that will replace the Vulture's job. But what is interesting right here is that we see a picture of this Avengers building we saw at the end of Civil War, when Tony came back from the fight against Bucky and Steve. So this will probably be the facility in which this damage control is centered. And this damage control is actually an expression of Tony's guilt he has because of what happened in Age of Ultron in Sokovia. So he feels very guilty for this, and he tries to really establish a good company that takes care of whatever damage he has done. So next we see Peter in the Avengers Tower and Tony with him. And Tony is just leading him through the tower, and once again Peter just tells Tony about the danger the Vulture represents, but Tony once again urges Peter to just focus on other things because the Avengers take care of people like the Vulture. Well, we again see how Peter tries to prove himself as being worth of an Avenger, and just Tony oppressing this thing a little bit because he obviously cares for Peter and just doesn't want him to get harmed or do something stupid. And we really see how Tony wants to protect Peter and how he is something like a father figure to him. Maybe also replacing Uncle Ben a little bit in this storyline. Maybe they get to know there in the Avengers Tower that the Vulture will attack this ship, and just Tony then tells Peter to not take care of this because he doesn't want to do anything stupid, but Peter goes there anyway. Probably he just wants to prove himself again to be worth of being an Avenger, and he ends up doing something stupid because he is in charge of the situation, and Iron Man has to help here. So Peter fails to rescue the ship, and Iron Man needs to do something. And after he helped, we see how Tony is talking to Peter and how he is really disappointed about what he has done. And he's even that disappointed that he says to Peter that he has to return the suit back, because he doesn't deserve it until he proves that he is also something without this suit. So we see how Peter doesn't believe in himself actually, because he says that he is nothing without this suit. And a really nice sentence that Tony says here is, if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it. So Tony is actually saying that he has to deserve the suit and prove that he can be also something without the suit, proving that he is a hero himself. With this scene on the roof where Peter and Tony are talking, we see how Tony is just being a father figure and a role model for Peter, because Peter himself said that he would like to be like Tony. But anyway, let's carry on. Then we see also a scene with Aunt May, and she says, you need to stop carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. And this is actually pretty interesting, because she definitely notices that Peter has to struggle with major stuff and that he is just busy with much important stuff. And we know that Aunt May is always a moral help for Peter in the movies and also in the comics, obviously because she replaces his mother. But might this actually mean that she knows that Peter is Spider-Man? Because we see that this shot is pretty serious and she is really talking in a serious tone. So does she maybe know that he is Spider-Man? And apart from that, maybe we will see in this scene also a reference to Uncle Ben, which would be pretty awesome, because I would definitely like to have at least a reference of Uncle Ben, because Uncle Ben is still a pretty huge person for Peter in his life. That his death influenced much, and also he himself influenced him much. So it wouldn't be that great, in my opinion, to just leave out Ben completely. But anyway, let's carry on. We then see how Peter approaches the Vulture in his homemade suit in a very dark building. And the Vulture here says, I want you to understand. And I already talked about this in my reaction video, but what I thought is that Peter goes there and they are talking to each other very seriously. And Peter really tries to understand why the Vulture is doing all the things that he does. But I don't really think that this is the case, because we always see how villains just talk much and try to make the heroes understand, but at the end it just leads to a fight. And since he's wearing his homemade suit, I assume that this happens after the ship fight, and that he already returned the suit, and now he has to prove that he can beat the Vulture without the suit. So I really think that this will be the final fight. But then the Vulture continues and says, I do anything to protect my family. And this is again referencing that he lost his job because of Tony. And we just have a very understandable villain, and a villain we can identify with, because this is a problem that many people have. Then the Vulture continues again, and he says, I know you know what I'm talking about. And then he continues also, I will kill you and everybody you love. Now we don't know if he actually says it in this order, or they just cut the trailer in a way that makes us think that he said it in this order. But if he says it in this order, this sounds very much like he knows his secret identity, and that he is aware of the people Peter tries to protect from danger. So Aunt May, Liz, and Ned, and people like that. And then we see also a shot of the homecoming dance, and we see how Liz and Peter kiss. And that is also pretty important actually, because Peter's crush And him trying to get the crush is always also a major point in Spider-Man movies and stories. And to see that he will actually succeed is pretty good to see. After that, we see the Vulture attacking the Washington Monument, and how we already assumed from several set pictures in which we saw cars with Washington license plates, Peter's class or Peter's school will make a school trip to the monument. And if you take a close look on the shot where something explodes there in the Washington Monument, you will see Martin Starr's character, so we know that he will play a teacher. And remember that they are here wearing yellow jackets, because I will mention this later again. So then we see how Spider-Man is talking to Zendaya's Michelle, and Michelle is just saying, "My friends are up there," and it's great to see her character again. And here we see the spider tracers then. So out of this button, I think, that he has in the middle of his chest, we see how a spider tracer comes out, and the spider tracers are actually little robots that help him scout his environment. And later on we see how he jumps off the building and he reveals the web wings. And apart from that, before he jumps off the building, we also see a police helicopter, which apparently is chasing Spider-Man. So maybe the situation just misleads the police into thinking that Spider-Man is a threat and not the Vulture. And this is actually also common things in Spider-Man stories. We also saw that in The Amazing Spider-Man, how Gwen's father tried to pursue Spider-Man. Well, then we see a shot of Peter apparently talking to Ned. And what he says is, "I just gotta do this on my own." So maybe Ned tries to help Peter, as I already mentioned it before, or Ned just wants Peter to call Iron Man because he thinks that Peter won't do this or is just too weak to do this. But Peter obviously wants to do it on his own to prove that he can do this. And then we see this fight on the plane, and I think that this will be the final fight because it seems like they are exiting this dark building they were in before, just because it is night during this fight. And we see how Spider-Man is again in his homemade suit, so I assume that this is everything in the same fight, and probably also the final fight. And well, the trailer ends here, and what I wanted to mention with the yellow jackets that they are wearing, I just wanted to make you notice that on this poster that we got recently, with Spider-Man laying there with his headphones on, and he's wearing also this yellow jacket, and this is just the jacket of his school, that his school, just something like a uniform or just something that represents his school probably. But anyway guys, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more.